going on YouTube today? We're gonna get this left rear sail panel done. So basically I got it all laid out and cut out, and we're gonna throw you on time warp. You guys can watch and see how I cut everything out and get it all done. Alright, so we got this thing all cut out and hem the edges down and over, hammer them down. So that's pretty much that. Now I just gotta take a file and get it all cleaned up and get all the sharp edges off of it and everything and get it mounted on there. That's how you build a sail panel. Oh, trust me, they sell this stuff, you know, but the problem is these Schwartz race cars that we run, they got a really weird size sail panel, and it's kind of a pain to find one. So maybe one of these years I'll get like a set that I feel is perfect. You know, every year it seems like there's just something little about them I don't like, or whatever the case is, and I make new ones the next year. But maybe one of these years I'll get a set that I feel is perfect, and we can like get it to a guy and maybe start getting like a 80 thou, something like that made, so that I don't have to build them every year. But nonetheless, until then, we'll keep building them every year.
Oh, back out in the shop again. So you guys didn't see anything other than Brandon trying to finish up this left side sail, but now it's all held on there. These things are actually called Clecos. Some of you might know what they are, but they're pretty slick. They're actually, you just use this little tool like this, and then you just come in here, and it's a spring-loaded deal. You just press it in like that, and it comes out. Essentially, the reason we use them, because it acts like a pop rivet without actually wasting a pop rivet. So we do use those things from time to time when we're trying to mock something up to make sure how it fits. But you can see that's exactly how it's going to be. It's about ready for actually being riveted down now. So that's one thing that Brandon's working on. We had to get some of the cockpit stuff finished up, so I got the power steering reservoir all mounted back down, because we actually had to drop it down with the new deck. And then just some of the wiring stuff underneath, actually inside there, had to be tidied up yet. So I actually got the fire extinguisher line that I added, if you remember that from a few videos back. Still got to put that on and finalize that, which is something I'm getting ready to work on next. And then we still got just a little bit of finish work to do to the actual driver's deflector here. I want to mess around with this windshield a little bit. So Brandon had to get all that stuff put back on there so he could re-rivet down this deck panel, which was one of the things that had to come off and be changed once we realized that the deck was kind of not where it needed to be. So nevertheless, some pretty good progress being made. Like I said, that rear sail is done. Cockpit's decks are all pretty much buttoned up at this point. The right side's about completely finished. You got the front sail made. You just got some filing stuff to do on that and completely finish that. So definitely moving along here finally. We're, I think, within 5 weeks now of the race season, so
Getting closer every day.
Getting closer every day. That's right. You know, that point where you got to spend 6 months worth of money in 2 weeks just to go to the freaking racetrack for the first time. Seems like, you know, no matter what you do, the beginning of the year is always just a scramble, time and money wise. I mean, we could have done a whole lot more stuff to the car this year, but you know, we were trying to keep it kind of on a budget and keep it simple. You know, yeah, he's laughing at the fact that I said budget, because that's a funny term in the race car world, I guess. But yeah, we try to keep it simple, keep that motor in the car, and pretty much keep the drivetrain in there. But we did have a pretty hard wreck at the end of the season, and kind of concerned about the right rear axle tube being tweaked. So we're gonna go ahead and just get ahead of that and jerk the rear end out this week and change that tube out, and then you know, just do our normal preventative maintenance stuff on the rear end, pull the bird cages off and bird cage bearings and you know, things like that. So got a couple of new hubs coming for the right side. These ones, they got several years on them. So just always with these race cars, we always try to stay ahead of potential problems. You know, you break a hub ear off, and I mean, that could turn into a $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 bill, depending on how bad things go after you break that ear off. You know, you lose a tire and hook the track and barrel roll one of these things, it might junk a chassis. So for the $200 for a hub, you know, it's cheap insurance at that point as compared to what it could cost you. So we got a big order going in this week, and you know, it should kind of get us all the stuff for all the mechanical work. You know, pull the ball spline apart in the transmission, rebuild that. That fuel pump that's on the car has been on there for a couple years, but it was used when I bought it, and so we're gonna go ahead and upgrade that to the newer style now. And just like I said, just trying to stay ahead of the curve as far as things that could potentially go bad. Oh yeah, we got our radiator back in. Same stuff that was in there last year, no difference. Just put it back in. We had to take it out, do that rack boot, and do a few other things as far as the fabrication on the hood pin over there. So got that back in now, and like I said, just kind of excuse me, doing the finishing touch stuff. You know, it's we'll pull the hubs off the left side, since we're not replacing those, and throw some new bearings and races in there. Like I said, we'll have some good interesting videos coming up in the next week or two with some of the stuff that we got to do preventative maintenance wise. So it'll be good for people to see that and understand kind of what goes into stuff that you should do every year at minimum. So any thoughts there, buddy guy?
Hopefully this week, pending being held up by parts, not much our parts guy can do when the distributor doesn't have them in stock, but pending everything comes in, the game plan is to have the body buttoned up this weekend. I'm sick of doing it, and I'm ready to be done with this car so I can move on to other thoughts. So hopefully this week it's done, skin wise it's done, and we can put that behind us and worry about all the mechanical stuff, and I can start thinking about making stuff go fast again.
Yeah, it's funny. starts talking about stuff going fast again, and that's weird because that directly impacts my bank account. You know, he's like, yeah, I just need a few things. You know, hands me a list, and it's $1,000 worth of shit. It's like, oh wow, okay. So, but hey, I mean, it's all
speed costs money.
Yeah, speed costs money, evidently. So, no, it's all. I mean, you know, everything on these cars can be consumable, right? So we talk about go fast parts. I mean, you know, a spring's only $100. So you run the thing for a year or two, and you know it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. And I mean, probably there may not be, but you know, with what they go through, you figure you're cycling the suspension how many times during a race night. So just to kind of be, you know, replace some of that stuff and cycle some of that stuff out. You know, we're not a big team. I mean, some of these big teams, they cycle things out, you know, every 10, 15 shows at minimum a year. And it's not that what they're cycling out don't make a difference, but we just simply can't afford to do things on that level. So we pick and choose what things we cycle out, and you know what things make sense. I mean, $100 spring, if it helps you, then that's cheap speed, what we call cheap speed, because
consistency.
Yeah, and consistency, like Brandon said, it's, you know, it's amazing what you can find going wrong with the car. I mean, talk about rebuilding the ball spline on the transmission. We'll show you that when we do it. But I mean, you bind one of those things up, you could be chasing a suspension problem for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's really just a bind. I mean, you'd never know it. You know, same with,
chased it for 7 weeks once.
Yeah,
7 weeks.
Yep, he actually had one of those do that on his car, and that's this kind of part. It's probably pretty hard to see right now, but let me see if I can't get you an angle on there. So basically would be that part right there where the drive shaft is hooked to. They call that a ball spline. So it's basically like a slip yoke in your drive shaft, but it's big balls that actually go in there and like a ball bearing. So a little bit different than a standard slip yoke, but it's doing the same thing. So yeah, you get a bind on one of those, and you know, the car could be just not handling right, and it's because when the suspension travels, it's not slipping freely. So stuff like that, you know, it's, you know, $100 rebuild kits or $50 rebuild kits and a little bit of elbow grease to save you a whole lot of time and effort and a lot of money too. I mean, you know, I've seen guys throw brand new shocks at cars and brand new this and brand new that and new tires and can't figure out why the thing ain't doing what it's supposed to, and it's a $30 birdcage bearing that's bound up. You know, we've done that. I mean, so some of this preventative maintenance stuff, you know, it might look like there's nothing wrong with it, but what does it do when it gets hot? What does it do when it gets loaded? You know, that's the kind of the thing you got to think about. The environment that these cars and the suspension components are in are very tough and very demanding. So you do that stuff over the winter, at least at minimum, just to make sure that everything is, you know, functioning exactly as it was designed to function. You could take a hit mid-season and not really realize it, but you know, it's wearing on something a little bit more than it normally does, and I mean, who knows, right? So, but anyhow, so yeah, like you see, all that stuff comes apart. I'm sure you guys probably have seen that in other videos, but it's kind of neat to look at it when it's all done. So if you want to take something off, it's real simple. It's a few bolts and bam, it comes off. And then, you know, we got all the gauge panel back in and had to replace the fuel pressure sending unit because it went to light up all the gauges to make sure everything was working, and then the fuel pressure light wasn't coming on. What the hell? Started wiggling the wire and the damn thing pops right off. So again, par for the course. I think them gauges got 2 seasons on them, and I mean, it's just plastic. Some of the components are plastic, and you wash the thing every week and it bounces through ruts and shit like that. So it's just a matter of time before something breaks. So if you can, I'm glad it broke there. I'd much rather it break there than break on the track and, you know, it not do what it's supposed to do and tell you there's a problem. So at this point, yeah, like I said, Brandon's gonna go ahead and finish up that sail panel over there, get that all hammered down. I gotta do a little bit of trimming on this cowling. We'll get that all put back together and then make that fire extinguisher little bracket that we need to make. And we're just kind of piddling today. Like Brandon said, we're waiting on some parts, and that's just the way the market is right now. So we're just kind of doing that odds and ends stuff that, you know, I will do that later. Well, now is later, so.
All right, so what you seen there, we were taking off the rock guard, the plexiglass part of it, because the driver felt it wasn't dark enough and he wanted to tint it. So here's the finished product. We got it tinted. It's kind of hard to tell. It doesn't really do it justice, but it's black. It's pretty much dark. You can't even see through it anymore. But that's the finished product right there. He wanted to change out washers. I like the mill ones myself. I like the contrast changes, but it ain't my car. I'm just the assistant, and he likes the black ones. So on my car they'll be milled though. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up the weekend. It don't look like a lot of progress. These are kind of some of this tedious stuff, and even with the maintenance stuff, it don't look like, you know, you spend all day cleaning hubs and bearings and repacking bearings and put it all back together, and it's like, well, what have you gotten done? That's kind of how some of this stuff is, right? You know, changing out a fuel pressure switch and tidying up some stuff and finish zip tying stuff. That just takes time, and it doesn't seem like a lot of progress, but it was actually a pretty good day with what we were able to get done today. You know, when you get the nose on and you get the filler panel done, the hood on, it looks like big you know, things are really moving, you know, but I mean, all this stuff is just some of this small stuff. It just takes time, and you got to just do it. And, you know, it's disheartening. Sometimes you walk in after a weekend full of work and you got a ton of shit done, but you're standing there like, huh, well, that doesn't look like it made a difference. But, you know, the more you do it, the more you realize that, hey, greasing hubs and cleaning hubs and all that stuff, that's a full day's worth of work. But it's a big, meaningful project. So we might say we got a lot of stuff done, and it might not look like it in the video, but trust us when we tell you, if it's a good day, we probably got some stuff done. So that should pretty much do it for the weekend, I think. Unless Brandon's got anything to add. I mean, the problem is with mill washers, I'll just say this, that anytime you got a mill component on a car, you lose 2 to 3 tenths. There's no doubt about it. The air flowing over an anodized part or a powder coated part is so much smoother. I mean, we've done extensive wind tunnel research, and that goes to prove it. So
see, I'm just gonna call him on his bullshit right now, because the extra weight of the powder coat versus the mill offsets the air drag over the milled part. So he's full of it. Don't listen to him. That's the week for us. We'll get it back out here next week and hopefully get some more stuff done. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this post for everybody else, and